Hi, I'm Kirsten, the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast host. Thank you for listening, and I hope these stories and conversations bring you comfort and help you feel less alone. Enjoy this episode. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. I'm really excited because you are my first interview of 2026. And, I've had a little bit of a hiatus with recording episodes. And I'm really excited to start this again with you and hear your story.
Yay. I'm excited to be the first, and hopefully we can start the year off with a reassuring and relatable story for those who are searching for it.
Yes,
at this time.
Definitely. Your story is very relatable for me. I see a lot of my story in yours. So take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, so my ectopic pregnancy was in July 2023. And my husband and I got married in April that year, and we were pretty eager to start a family. So we started trying. And then we tried for a couple of months, and I have fairly regular cycles. So my cycles were going quite regularly. And I guess it was probably about three or four cycles of trying. I'd say 2 of actually trying, because once I kind of got the hang of what the timing was and everything, I didn't take any tests or anything because my period was just coming regularly. And then about 5 days after I finished my period, which was at the regular time, regular length, nothing was unusual about it, I started spotting. And I also found that emotionally I was just all over the place, which again was pretty unusual. I get a bit of fluctuation with my cycle, but it was just strange. So I went to the GP just to get that checked out because I was trying to get pregnant. So I was like, well, something's not right. I want to know so I can see. And the first thing that she said was, well, if you're trying, let's take a pregnancy test. And I was like, well, timing's really off. I just finished my period 5 days ago. There's no way I'm pregnant, but sure, I'll try. And sure enough, it came back positive. And I was immediately was like, this really feels wrong. I've never been pregnant before, but the timing, from my understanding of biology and everything that needs to happen, I just finished my cycle. We had we tried once, the day after I finished, and then it was 5 days later. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. Yeah. But my GP was pretty she's like, it's early, be cautiously optimistic. The bleeding's just implantation bleeding. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. She said, come back in 2 weeks and get your bloods done, come back and we'll kind of take it from there. So I had everything kind of planned. I got my bloods taken, got a GP appointment, but I had still continued to spot. And again, I'd never been pregnant before. So I was like, it was really light. So I was like, maybe this is normal. The GP said it's implantation bleeding, and it didn't quite fit from the little Googling search that I did. But anyways, I went back to the GP and told her I was still spotting. And she's like, oh, that's not what you would expect. And your HCGs are still rising from, I think she had me take them when I first got the pregnancy test, and then I had another set then with all the bloods that I'd taken, and she could see they were going up. She's like, I'll take your HCGs one more time, and I want you to get an ultrasound just to check, because it might be ectopic or it might be a miscarriage, depending on where your HCGs are going from here. And then I guess, to complicate things more, I was off on an international trip. I was living in Australia at the time, and I was flying to the UK for a wedding, the next day or 2 days later or something. And so I said to the GP, I'm going to the UK. And she's like, oh, if it's, let's get your emergency ultrasound. We'll get it done today. If it's ectopic, you shouldn't fly. And I was like, if it's a miscarriage, can I fly? She's like, yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but you can fly. It's, I guess, safe enough. And so I went to get an ultrasound, and they just did an over the tummy one. And
interesting.
which again, I'd never been pregnant before, never been through that process. I mean, you see it on the movies, so I was like, okay, I guess this is what they do. But of course, now knowing everything, like, sorry, my little one's coming in to say hi.
That's okay. Oh,
they're just getting ready to go for a little nightly walk.
oh,
Do you want to say hi?
hi.
This is the the culmination of all of the ectopic pregnancy journey.
Oh yeah,
is here.
That's your little rainbow baby.
Want to say hi?
Hi. What's your name?
This is Tommy.
Tommy.
And he's 17 months old.
17 months. Yeah. Hi, Tommy.
I probably have to go for a walk again.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, I think, like, I feel so lucky. I mean, I'm sure every parent feels lucky, but I guess considering the journey, and you've had a similar journey with your ectopic before your before you had your son, like, it makes it I don't know, really special.
Miracles,
especially like looking back. Looking back at the journey. But yeah, so they did the over the tummy one, like an abdominal one, and I was like, at the time, okay, this is what you do when you're pregnant. It's what you see in the movies. Like, they don't show the transvaginal ones in the movies.
It's funny that you always look back on movies for, like, the real experience, but it's just the movies.
I know, it's so different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so different. Hi, Kirsten here. Sorry to pause the episode, but I want to share a brief ad all about therapy. Rather than trying to reinvent yourself this season, what if you took the time to understand how you already are? Most resolutions don't fail because we lack discipline. They fail because real, meaningful change is built slowly through awareness and consistency. Therapy helped me in more ways than you can imagine after my ectopic pregnancy. A big breakthrough was when I was ready to try to conceive again. My therapist helped me understand and unravel how hope and fear can coexist. It's life-changing to get insights from an expert. If you're thinking about therapy this year, do it. BetterHelp is a trusted sponsor. Joining their service was the best decision I've ever made. BetterHelp will match you with a therapist based on your preferences, their own clinical experience, and over a decade of matching expertise. Make your mental health and growth a positive focus this year. Go to betterhelp.com/ectopic or choose ectopic pregnancy support during sign-up and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thanks for listening to the ad. Let's get back to the episode.
But yeah, of course they didn't see anything, because at the time, according to my GP, and like, I had finished my cycle, I was two weeks pregnant, which I know now, like, there's no way I would have been 2 weeks. It was probably from the cycle before. But yeah, of course they didn't see anything in my uterus. They had seen my uterine lining had recently shed, because I assume I had just shed it with my period or whatever that was.
Right.
They said that I ovulated from my left side is what they could see. And so I left with, like, no information, but kind of feeling like, okay, it's a miscarriage. So they didn't see that it's ectopic. Again, not really knowing what an ectopic pregnancy was fully. Like, I knew it implanted outside the uterus, but I didn't know what the complications were and everything. So I hopped on a flight and flew across the world. Like, I think I was on one flight for like 15 hours, and then the next one was like 8 hours, and was feeling okay. But yeah, just knowing what could have happened is so scary, and I think that's one of the scariest parts of my story for me.
I'm sure time stood still for you on those flights, and those are really long flights. If something were to have happened, you just never know.
Exactly. And I, again, like, didn't really realize the severity or the seriousness of it. Of course the GP said you shouldn't fly if it's ectopic, but it wasn't diagnosed, so I again was very naive.
When
and then I made
Oh, sorry. I have a
Okay.
question. When your GP told you that it could potentially be a miscarriage or ectopic, how did you feel about that?
Mm, I knew something wasn't right.
Hmm.
So I was kind of like prepared for that. Like when she said to be cautiously optimistic, I wasn't really optimistic at all. Like I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, and I guess I was hoping it was a miscarriage
Hmm.
because that felt a little bit, I mean, it was just more well known, like
Hmm.
especially like an early miscarriage. Like I had been listening to podcasts since I'd started trying, and there's so much about miscarriages, 25% of pregnancies end in an early miscarriage and everything. So it felt a bit safer, I guess, because
Yeah.
ectopic pregnancies, if they were talked about, were really just lumped in with miscarriages. So it felt a little bit more foreign and everything. So I guess at the time I never felt like the pregnancy was viable. And so I never let myself get excited.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess I just didn't know which way it was going to go. And
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I understand in that sense because my first pregnancy was ectopic as well. And
Mhm.
there's so much uncertainty there. And it's so sad to have that excitement of pregnancy stripped away from you when you hear those words, because
Mhm.
you just don't think it's going to happen to you. And then when you hear
Exactly.
those words, your entire, I don't know, imagination of what pregnancy could be or be, it's just not as exciting because you had this
Mhm.
bad news.
Yeah. And I think it really impacted my pregnancy with my son as well. And it like that anxiety carried over, particularly at the early stages when you're having to be screened
Mhm.
um, to check that it's in the right place. And the anxiety for those 2 weeks of waiting to see was just like nothing else, like
Mhm.
almost worse than the ectopic pregnancy itself, like just like really scared it's going to happen again. Um, and it takes away that excitement of like you get like you see all the positive pregnancy tests and like people getting excited and sharing that. And for me, I had like a little bit of excitement because I got to share it with my husband. But then after that, it was like, okay, I've got an appointment scheduled for this time and this time, and like, I'm gonna go see the GP and like, and yeah, it felt a lot. Yeah, it took that part of it away as
Right.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. When I was pregnant with my son after my ectopic, I never really felt calm or at peace.
Mhm.
It really wasn't until I was actually in the hospital holding him, because you learn through pregnancy loss and pregnancy complications that anything can happen. And there's no certainty until you're actually holding them. And
Yeah,
specifically with ectopics, you learn that things can change in a matter of hours.
yeah, and I think that is what the whole pregnancy is. I was looking back at my pregnancy with my son, and it's interesting to see because I felt like going into pregnancy, I was really high risk because obviously when you have one ectopic, it increases your risk of having another one.
Yes.
And so I felt like going into pregnancy, I was this high risk pregnancy. But in reality, once I hit that 6 weeks or whatever, it showed that it was in the right spot. It just became a level playing field from a medical perspective, but it didn't feel that way because of the trauma of having that, being that 2%, that
Yep.
felt so like it's them, but actually it's me. And so there's all these other complications that, yeah, there's so much anxiety around that.
Mhm.
And like going into every scan and going into everything, you're just like, yeah, it just never felt like, I always felt scared and worried rather
Yeah.
than excited. Yeah. And then, of course, you do get that excitement. But yeah, I remember like even in like when I gave birth to my son, right after, my eyes were closed and they handed him to me and he wasn't crying straight away. And everyone's like, look at him, look at him. And my eyes were still closed because I was very like internalizing everything that was happened. I wasn't ready to open him. And I was like, no, something's wrong. And I was like, he's dead. Like, because I couldn't hear him, and I obviously had my eyes closed. And so like I even carry that anxiety into like the very first part of that. But then it definitely having him and having a positive pregnancy helped the healing journey, because I just don't know where I would be without that, to be honest, because I think that was one of the hardest parts about the ectopic pregnancy, as well as the unknown of why and what that means for me, and never really having that answered. And
I know that unknown and wonder, it can really mess with your head. It's really I mean, we always talk about the physical aspect of an ectopic pregnancy, but the emotional aspect is sometimes harder than the physical.
Yeah, and I imagine that's with, I guess, because it is a loss. With any pregnancy loss, it's similar. The emotional part is really, I think, the biggest challenge to overcome, and just to see how regular it is. I know that you had a miscarriage after your son, and like, so many women are going around with this, and it's everywhere, and it's hard. It's really hard. It's just the fact that it's more common doesn't make it easy. Like, and I thought it would, because again, I listened to all the podcasts and stuff, but once it does happen, you're like, no, this is huge, and it's huge for every individual person in a different way. And
it is, and it really carries such a heavy weight over your day-to-day. I know when I was trying for my son after my ectopic, it really was. I mean, I would think about my fertility every single day, and eventually time had passed, and then I did finally conceive my son, and that was all glorious and amazing. And then when I did recently have my miscarriage last year, it almost threw me back into my feelings after the ectopic of just my fertility, and the loss is so top of mind every single day, especially month to month, as we continue to try, and some take a step back, but we have been. But yeah, I think, yes, it's more common, and yes, more women are speaking out about their losses, which is amazing. It just doesn't make it easier, because it's such a mental load and a physical load. But yeah, that mental aspect is really hard.
Yeah. And I know that, like, as far as ectopics go, I feel quite fortunate in my journey and to recovery from it. If I hadn't been flying overseas, I think it would have been fairly straightforward with I got methotrexate. I finally, when I did get to the UK, navigating the UK health system, particularly as someone, because I'm American, living in Australia, I come to the UK, like, I didn't know who to call, where to go, what to do, because I wasn't in like excruciating pain where I was passing out or anything,
Right.
because my tube hadn't ruptured, but so that was really hard. So that was, and I guess quite traumatic as well, feeling really lost and scared in that respect.
Definitely. So we ended, well, we started talking about our rainbow babies because Tommy came in. And you were just talking about how you took your
diet.
You got to the UK. So if you could take us from there once you touched down. Awesome.
So I had made a telehealth appointment to check with my GP about my HCG, hoping it was going down. Again, like, it felt very strange to be hoping for a miscarriage, but that felt like the safest, most, like, I guess, path of least resistance. Because I really, like, I remember asking the GP before I left, I was like, do you think it's viable? She's like, really small chance, like really low. So I was like, I've kind of dismissed that. And it was now between an ectopic and a miscarriage. And I just felt like if my HCGs were going down and it was a miscarriage, it would be, I don't know, again, like I haven't had a miscarriage in the non-ectopic sense, so I
Right.
know they can't, like, I felt like if it was my HCGs were going down, I'd already bled, like I was like, that hopefully
Right.
that will just be moving on. But yeah, they were going up, and so my GP said, if you have any pain or if you continue, like if you have any more bleeding, go to the emergency room. And I had been spotting still, but it was like so little and it was coming and going. Like I was like a bit in denial. I was like, it's not really spotting. It was spotting, and I probably should have just gone straight to the emergency room. But I was like, no, it's fine. It's just like a little bit, or it's not right now. So, and then my husband, we were there for a wedding, and my husband was the best man, so he was off doing best man duties, and I was kind of navigating London on my own, which was in a normal sense. Like I was like really excited. I was going to go and see some West End shows, and was going to meet my the other best man's partner and her little girl, and for a day out and stuff. So I had my plans and stuff, but then I was just like terrified in the back, and I was all alone, so I had no one to like distract me for most of the time and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember even speaking to my friends, my the other best man's partner. She was like, so are you guys gonna start trying? And I was like, I'm actually pregnant right now, but, and it was like, it was a really weird, like, because I couldn't hold it in. And I was like, but I think it's ectopic, or I'm having a miscarriage or something. And I just talked about it so nonchalantly, but I look back at that being like, that was actually a really big deal that I just like unloaded it. But it just, it came up, and yeah, so it was.
That's so sad when you have to say yes, and I'm pregnant, and I think it's this. It's so strange to say.
Yeah. I haven't actually reflected on that part of my story, but yeah, it's a lot. And like I felt we're pretty close, even though she lives in Canada, and anyways, it's a weird like close friendship, even though we're far away. And she was really supportive. But yeah, it's a lot. Like it's a whole world navigating pregnancy and pregnancy loss and everything. And
great that you felt comfortable enough to tell her.
Yeah.
That would have been probably more isolating and heartbreaking to say, yes, we would love a family, deep down knowing
and
that
keeping it inside. Yeah. I also had another friend who is my friend from college, who had an ectopic pregnancy a few years before I did. And she shared that she had an ectopic pregnancy on an Instagram post. And she's also a nurse. So I reached out to her during this whole, like when I was by myself in London before I had gone in and gotten any official diagnosis. And I was like, can you share your experience? Because I think I might be having an ectopic pregnancy, and I don't know what that means, and what, like, I don't know, can you tell me what happened to you so I can try and navigate this for me? And so she called me and told me her experience, and her fallopian tube ruptured. She was a mile from the hospital, and where her ectopic pregnancy was really close to an artery. So when it ruptured, like it also ruptured the artery, and she had a lot of blood loss. And she's like, if I wasn't like as close to the hospital, and if I didn't know, like, because they were both nurses, her and her partner, if like he didn't know how to navigate that and like what to do and know what was happening, like she's like, I'm not sure I'm gonna be here. So she, like, without like scaring me, like really like we just shared her story, and then helped me come up with a plan as well while I was overseas. So I like had an appointment for I made a private appointment for an ultrasound up in the Lake District up north, which is where the wedding was, or maybe in Manchester or something, because we were also planning on flying to Spain to see my husband's family before we were going to the wedding. So we had like a whole trip planned. So I was trying to like these doctor's appointments around it, and in a healthcare system I didn't understand. But she's like, yeah, get an appointment another ultrasound appointment at this time. And then of course, like you'll have a bit more information then. And yeah, so at that point, that really freaked me out because I was like, okay, this is more serious than I kind of imagined it could be. And then I was out watching a show, and this was by myself at this time, and it was like 15 minutes until the end in the second act, and I started to feel pain in my right side. And I was like, this is very, like, it was a bit referred, it felt like kind of lower down on my hip more than my stomach, but I was like, I think this is an ectopic. Like, I think this is, that was kind of my sign. So then I was like, okay, now what do I do? It's like 10 p.m. I'm by myself, like, and I didn't even have a SIM card with a phone number, like a phone. So I was like trying to call nurse on call for an assessment through Skype. This was back when Skype was still there. And but it didn't, you couldn't make emergency calls with Skype. So then I tried to call nurse on call just with my phone number, like phone, because you can make emergency calls without like a plan, but it didn't recognize nurse on call as an emergency number. So I had to call like 911, and they're like, do you need an ambulance? I was like, well, no, I just need to know what to do. And they're like, okay, call nurse on call. And I was like, I can't. So I was like going in there. So eventually I
do in another country. Oh my gosh.
And then I went back to the hotel and I was like, surely the hotel that I'm staying at will let me use their phone. And they wouldn't. They're like, no, we don't let guests use our phone. I'm like, this is a medical emergency. Can I please use the phone? They're like, no. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
So I was so frustrated. I was one of the things that made me the most angry that night. And then I called my husband back. It was around like midnight. And I was like, he's had enough fun on the bachelor party. So he came back, and his friend had a phone that I could use. So I called, and they nurse on call, the nurse assessed me and said, I'm going to make you a telehealth appointment with the GP. And then the GP called the next morning and said, yeah, you need to go and get a scan. So then they made me an appointment at the early pregnancy unit at the hospital for that afternoon. And so they did the proper scan, like the vaginal scan with the ultrasound, and they found that I had something, they said, outside my ovary, my right ovary. So it was in my right fallopian tube. They were so good there, though. Like, once I was there with the experts, it was like, I felt so supported. Obviously, it's really scary, but once I had the people that knew what was going on around me, and particularly like all the GPs and everyone's was really good. But once I had like the OBGYN, like, that knew what was going on,
yeah,
it was, yeah.
Yeah, at least you had some peace of mind.
Yeah. But then of course that was really scary to, like, they were like, you can do methotrexate, or you can have surgery, or watch and wait. It was small enough. They said watch and wait could be an option, but they checked my HCGs again, and they said if it was going up, because I think it was around 2,000. Okay. So I think it was, they were like, if it goes up, then watch and wait's not an option. And so they checked it one more time, and it was still going up slowly. So originally I was like, well, let's do surgery. And then again, so naive, they're like, when you do surgery, you usually have to remove the fallopian tube. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's really scary. So again, like, I was so naive. I knew nothing about it.
Right.
Now I feel like I could tell everyone everything.
Yeah. You learn so much in such a short period of time.
Yeah. And yeah, so then I decided to do methotrexate, because the other thing that was pressing was, obviously I was only in the UK for a short time, but I couldn't go back until this was all resolved. So I was like, oh, like, surgery would obviously get it done, and then I'd have a week recovery and I could go. Whereas methotrexate, obviously there's a chance it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And then there's also, you just don't know how long it's going to take as well. I think they had said it could take like between 4 and 8 weeks sometimes. So I was like, I think I need to not worry about going back home, not worry about work. Like I just need to worry about like really just focus on what's best for my health and everything. So I decided to do methotrexate, and they did one injection in my bum, and it resolved in 3 weeks in the end.
Wow.
My HCGs went down to 0 in 3 weeks. So
okay, well,
again, best case scenario.
Yeah, that's great that they decreased that quickly. And my story was very similar. Mine reached below 5 around 3 weeks as well. And I know some women have to have multiple doses, and it can last over 2 months. And yeah, so I would say with you being in a completely different country, that was best case scenario, regardless of, the outcome and the reason why. What kind of symptoms did you have after methotrexate?
So the pain started before. Obviously, that's what kind of prompted me to go in and actually get the diagnosis. And then they sent me away with cocodamol, like codeine and Tylenol, and said if you have any pain, like you're going to have pain because there's bleeding, and so if you have pain, you can take this. But if there's a lot of pain, come in. And so that was kind of the main symptom. And I don't know if it was a symptom because of the methotrexate, or if it was a symptom just because of the stage that the ectopic pregnancy was at, and it was just bleeding more. But I had a lot of pain in the days after, like to the point where I was trying to figure out, do I go in or do I just see if it resolves? And I didn't end up going in, again, because I imagine if I was like in my home and I knew the route to the hospital and kind of had that, I might have gone in, but it was kind of a lot more to navigate. So I was like, I'll just wait a little bit longer. And then it did resolve with the cocodamol. But I thankfully that was only for like a few days. And again, I don't know if it was the methotrexate or if it was just the stage of the ectopic pregnancy. But then I was tired, but I don't know if that was just because I was emotionally drained, and it was, traveling alone, like makes you tired. But then you add like a medical emergency, obviously that's going to wear on you a bit too. So yeah, I didn't have any side effects from the methotrexate from like just visibly. But what they did do for me, and I don't know if this is again just because of the ectopic or methotrexate, but they did have me do follow-up scans. To see if the mass had like the mass, I guess at this point, the pregnancy had disappeared at 6 weeks. Yeah, so 6 weeks after I got to 0, they had me do a follow-up scan.
Okay.
And that was advice from the UK, but I was already back in Australia.
Okay.
So I scheduled a follow-up scan, and they don't do follow-up scans in Australia. So like, as in that's not common practice. So when I went in, it was all sorts of messed up. Like, my fallopian tubes were very visible. I had, the mass was still there. Everything just looked like inflamed and stuff. So I don't know if that's like, who knows if that's like something like, I mean, I'm sure if I had surgery, I'd also have a bit of trauma and inflammation and stuff. But that was really scary too for my fertility journey, I guess, because they had looked at that. They're like, well, the pregnancy is still there. Right. The fallopian tubes are visible, which they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be so small you can't see them. So I was like, oh, I guess I've got something wrong with everything. That's why I had my ectopic. But then I went back, and 6 weeks later, it was fine. So, yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with the medication, the ectopic. I mean, it's definitely ectopic related, but I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, thankfully, I didn't have much symptoms with methotrexate itself.
Good. Yeah, that's good. During those 3 weeks leading up to you reaching 0 with your HCGs, how often did the UK doctor have you get blood work?
So I was trying to remember this. I think when I first had the methotrexate, I guess they must have taken, I think they took the bloods the next day. So it was really frequent after, but they also said, don't expect it. Like if it doesn't go down, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes it still goes up before it goes down. So they did it, I want to say it was like at first, like every 72 hours. And then I think after it started going down, it was every week. So
Okay.
once it went down, then they said, come back in a week and then come back in a week.
Okay.
And the last one they did was a urine test.
Okay.
And so they were like, if it's not detectable on the urine test, then it's low enough.
Okay. Yeah, I do hear that when you first get your lab work done after getting methotrexate, it's very normal for it to go up because the medication just hasn't really gotten into your system yet. And it usually takes that second blood draw until you start to see that dip.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember I think mine went down straight away. But I was anticipating it to go up and trying not to be worried about it. But,
right. I know.
Yeah.
When they first have methotrexate and they reach out to me and say, well, it went up. So what am I supposed to do? And it's good reassurance when you hear a lot of stories of those numbers going up, and eventually they do go down and they decrease as they should. Some cases, not so much. And that's why you have to get another dose. But it's wild that all of our stories are so different, yet similar at the same time.
Yeah. And I also think back to when I was in hospital too, the woman, the consultant that was, her name was Dr. Mary. She was amazing. She had been working in the early pregnancy unit for years and years, and before they had methotrexate.
Okay.
And she was saying, like, back when I first started working here, you didn't, like, women weren't in until they had collapsed because there just wasn't exposure and everything. So yeah, I mean, it feels like methotrexate's almost like this miracle, and it's not even made for this purpose. Like, and it's just this amazing drug that's helping us to recover from this so much different than it used to be.
Yeah, it's improve our outcomes.
Yeah.
So once the methotrexate was out of your system, I don't know, how long did they tell you to wait to try to conceive again?
3 months, I think they said.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that's what I was told as well.
Yeah. And because I had that scan at 6 weeks after the methotrexate, after the ectopic pregnancy had resolved, and it looked all like not quite right. They told me to not try not to get pregnant for 6 weeks after that as well, because the next step was what's they call laparoscopy, the surgery.
Oh yeah.
Keyhole to like have a look around. And if you're pregnant, you can't have that. And although I was like, well, if I'm pregnant, then it doesn't matter. But they were like, don't, like, wait until your next scan and stuff. So I did wait a little bit longer than the 3 months just because of that, before trying again.
Okay. And how long did you try until you conceived your rainbow?
2 months.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I feel so fortunate because, again, like, and the first month after, my cycle was extra long and I was really freaked out. Like, because again, like, my cycle before I fell pregnant with ectopic pregnancy was 28 days, between 28 and 30 days, like, on the spot. And the first cycle that I tried, it was like 45 days or something. And I took a pregnancy test and I kept taking them. They were all negative. I got my bloods done. They were all negative. But I was really scared because I was like, my period did come. But then I also was like, well, I had my period with my ectopic. So, like,
Yeah.
It's like, it's not really reassuring. I feel like, yeah, but yeah, and then the second time I fell pregnant, the second month I tried, and it was really healing, but I was not ready emotionally for that, because the wait before the 6-week scan that I was just, it was so hard. Like, I was not emotionally ready to try. And I think if I hadn't fallen pregnant then, it would have been a hard call. But I think I would have had to like say I'm not ready and take a break, because it was really, really not, I was not emotionally ready. And being pregnant and having that positive pregnancy experience and everything helped me heal. And like, I don't know where I would be without that, which again kind of just shows I feel like I wasn't ready. Because if it hadn't been that positive experience, like, I don't know where that would have left me emotionally.
Yeah,
And mentally.
I appreciate you saying that, because it is a reality of, yes, you want something so bad and you want that family as an end goal, but also you don't know how long it's going to take. So surprisingly falling pregnant so quickly, I can understand your feelings of not being ready emotionally. And like we talked about earlier, there's so much anxiety with pregnancy, loss, and all of those emotions mixed together would have been incredibly difficult. But I also would say that your story of quickly can give so many other women hope that it is possible.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to share. And it's hard because I know that when I was on the other side, and it's the unknown that is the most challenging part, is what does this mean for my fertility? Like, why did this happen? Is this my journey? And is this just how it's going to be? Am I just going to have ectopic after ectopic or what? And I know I'm older, like I'm a geriatric pregnancy. I think how old am I now? 30, I'm 37 now. So I was 35 when I had my ectopic pregnancy. And so I was feeling like the pressure of time and all of that as well. And so it's hard. The unknown is hard. But one thing I would want to share with anyone who's going through any kind of fertility or any kind of like challenge with that ectopic pregnancy or even miscarriage or things like that, that one scary or bad experience or negative experience doesn't dictate that will be the journey. And that's the hardest thing to see past. Even I have in my own experience, my mom had fertility challenges, and her challenges were blocked fallopian tubes. She didn't have an ectopic pregnancy, but she did basically give up on having children until she found one obstetrician that was like, oh, let's have a look. And I guess my mom doesn't really know exactly what they did. She's like, oh, they just unblocked them. And I was like, they don't really do that. But I think she might have had that, like, the test where they test. Yeah. And then it just kind of cleared it enough. And she had me and my sister after that. So like, even having a, like, being a living proof of like that journey not being straightforward,
definitely
still was really challenging for me to be like, to see past my the ectopic pregnancy and all of the, because you just don't know which way it's going to go. So I hope that people can look at positive experiences after loss and have hope that their journey isn't at an end with whatever the challenge is.
Yeah, I feel like that is such a good message, and probably the best way to end the episode. I feel like your story is the perfect representation of that. And, I talk about it all the time, that there is light at the end of that dark tunnel. And Tommy, your son, is the perfect the perfect outcome to that darkness.
Yeah. And Roy as well. Like
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you know, there are so many examples of that. And it's, yeah, I think it's really, really hard to be able to shift that mindset, especially when you're in the thick of it. But yeah, women are resilient.
We are
They are very
definitely,
resilient.
we are very resilient. And to anyone listening, if you are trying to conceive and you may be wondering when it's going to happen to you, just don't lose hope, because
Yeah.
miracles happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you, Michelle. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me today and spreading hope to all of our listeners.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for creating the community that you have, because I found you obviously at the time, and there's not a lot of support for ectopic pregnancy specifically. It's so specific, and there's so many layers to having an ectopic pregnancy that having the community that you've built around me. I still check into the Slack community because I want to be able to help others and support others and just be there for others. So thank you for everything that you've done for everyone around the world as well.
I'm glad to have you in our Slack community and helping support the other women in it. We are stronger together. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast. If you are looking for additional resources, head to ectopicpregnancysupport.com to learn more about my exclusive online support chat. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. See you next time.